What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to do 5 of my favorite mini ramp tricks. But first, I just want to tell you about a giveaway I'm going to be doing over on Instagram. My wheel company, Karma Wheel Co., giving away 2 sets of wheels. And all you have to do is just go follow Danny Torres, one of our team riders, and me for more details. All right, guys, let's jump into the first trick, and that's going to be a feeble grind to fakie. So first, you're just going to want to approach the ramp at a 45-degree angle. So as I get up to the coping, I like to focus on getting this one wheel onto the coping and not my whole truck. If you get your whole truck on, it tends to stick and not grind as well, so try to focus on getting that one wheel on. Also, something else that might make you stick is if you try to think about it like a 50-50, because if you're on top, like squared away like this on top, it's just gonna stick. Like your wheels are gonna grab onto the ramp and they're not gonna go anywhere. So you have to make sure that you're keeping the board sideways when you lock in. So once you have the lock in down, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is focus on poking your front foot out forward, right? You're just gonna bend your back leg a little bit so you're sitting on your back leg. And that'll keep all your weight on the back, pushing these wheels forward and so they don't stick on the ramp, right? So you're really just using your front foot as a guide, holding the board in place, and almost all your weight is leaning on the back foot. So this is probably the hardest part of the trick, and it's coming back in. I recommend just doing it as a stall first, just do it a bunch of times, and if that's still hard for you, you can practice going feeble to rock to fakie, just to kind of get the rhythm down. So the technique I use to come in from the grind is, right when I'm ready to come in, I get a little bit light-footed, right? And then I lift up and I slide my wheels on the ramp. And that kind of makes a more powerful, like distinct motion of coming back in. Like I just feel really in control when I'm doing that. So, you know, you could, another way people do it is they grind it and then they'll come to a stop and then come in. But for me, I just feel so much more in control when ripping it in and then manualing it into fakie. So you might not be able to do that at first. It might take a little bit of getting used to and feeling more comfortable with the trick. But for me, that was one thing that made it like every single try I was able to land it. Okay, next up we have the frontside 5-0 grind to fakie. So with the frontside 5-0 grind, you want to make sure you're not doing it on the inside of the ramp. This is more of like a slash grind. You want to make sure you're getting on top of the coping, getting that whole truck on, and that way it makes it easier for you to sit on it more comfortably. Another technique I use when I'm locking in is I lock in at an angle. Right? I'm not like straight like as if I was on a ledge. I come up and I just sit on it, and it kind of helps me lock in a little bit better. And it's also, it leaves you in position to come back in. Now this is where it starts to get a little weird, because you're gonna have your board turned into the ramp, but then you're gonna turn your shoulders in the opposite direction while you're grinding. And that's gonna kind of set you up to turn backside into the ramp. Okay, so this is where locking in at angle is gonna help you out, because your board's already turned, right? So all you have to do is drop your nose down and your wheels are kind of in the ramp already, right? It's one of the big fears with a 5-0 fakie is like you're coming in backwards and you feel like you're falling off the coping in. But if you think about it this way, where you're just kind of angled at a 5-0, you drop your wheels down and then you slide the wheels in on the ramp, makes it much more easier. And then over time, once you get comfortable, you're not even gonna feel like you're sliding your wheels. Like you'll just be able to kind of rip it in one motion. 2 important things to remember about this trick is you have to be kind of leaning into the ramp, and you might be fearful of doing that. You might want to stay on top of the coping, but you're gonna have to like sit on the 5-0 and lean into the ramp to be able to do it. And the other thing is it's very easy to slip out on this trick, so make sure you learn it on a smaller ramp and, you know, maybe learn it as a stall first. Okay, for trick number 3, we're going to be learning the frontside hurricane grind to fakie. So before you start trying this trick, just make sure you have the right foot positioning. I like to hang my back foot off the edge of the tail and almost use my foot as a hand, kind of have my toes off the edge of the board, and that helps me grip my board and be able to slide my wheels on the ramp. Now that sliding of the wheels on the ramp is the most important part of this trick. If you're able to just get light-footed and slide, your wheels, you'll be able to do this trick pretty easily. So when I'm going to lock in, I think about it just like an alley-oop 50-50. And with this trick, you have a lot more leeway than you do with the Feeble, because the Feeble, you kind of have to lock in with that one wheel on. And while you should aim to lock in that way, sometimes with the Hurricane, even if you get your whole truck on sometimes or in the middle, it'll still grind. So I think that has to do with you have so much weight like behind you when you're doing this trick, it just almost always pushes it forward. A good way to practice this could be to just miss your alley-oop 50-50, and even if you're doing it on top of the ramp and going in the regular, you'll start to get the motion down, and then eventually you could lock in sideways. So like I said, just really focus on staying behind it, right, with your weight leaning back this way, and it'll just keep grinding. And if you feel like you're too far, back, once you go to come in and press on the tail, all that weight is gonna come meet your board, and you're gonna kind of center out and then be able to come back in. Now, sometimes I do that thing with the Feeble Fakie I was talking about earlier, where I slide my wheels a little bit. That's more of an advanced technique, but you should be able to just come right in like a Feeble, and it almost feels easier to come in than a Feeble. Okay, for our next trick, it's gonna be the Nollie backside tail stall. So with this trick, you just want to make sure you have your Nollie backside 180s down. Make sure you can do them on flat and on like a bank ramp, and then even you can try it low on the transition. A lot of the times people think they have to go right into the trick, and they don't realize like you can work your way up from at the very bottom until it feels comfortable at the top. So for foot positioning on this trick, I put my front foot right in the center of the nose basically, and then I put my back foot just over the first two back bolts. So when you're doing a Nollie backside 180 on transition, it takes a lot less to turn it than it does on flat ground. On flat, it feels like you have to pop and turn the whole 180. And with this, for me, it feels like I'm barely popping at an angle, like slightly, And then the rest of the turn is coming from my foot that slides up. It kind of just whips around and puts it into place. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable at first, you can do it very quickly and kind of just not do a big pop and just shimmy it into place really quick. But for me, I like to have it a little bit more floaty, doing the Nollie and then let my foot rotate it into place. So another important thing to think about when you're doing Nollie tricks on transition is that when you hit the nose, it's gonna snap a lot quicker than it does on flat ground, because your weight is almost ready to be leaning forward onto the coping. So you gotta kind of push up forward and do a light pop, right? It's kind of like on your way up, scooping it off the ramp. Once you start to get that feeling down, a lot of the Nollie tricks will become easier for you. Now, if all that still feels a little awkward for you, another way to practice this trick is to pop the Nollie, right, with one foot, and then just put that foot right on the coping, and then swing your other foot around, and just try to aim it into place. Just so that way you're not gonna fall or slip out. And then once it starts to feel natural, then maybe you'll stick it. All right, guys, and the last trick we're gonna be learning today is frontside 180 Fakie 5-0. Okay, so for this trick, you're gonna apply the same techniques as the Hurricane grind where you're sliding the wheels. You're just gonna be turning frontside. So as you're sliding the wheels on the ramp and getting up to the coping, I like to think about it almost like a blunt slide, but I'm just missing both wheels on the coping. Just overturning a little bit and locking that one wheel on. So I like to lock into it at an angle because as I keep grinding, the board tends to keep turning, right? And so by the time I'm ready to come in, I'm turned into that position already and ready to ollie in. Now sometimes if you lock in perfectly straight and you keep grinding fast, the board will not be lined up with your shoulders and it'll be harder to come in. And as I'm grinding, I like to press down on my tail as hard as I can while at the same time leaning back. Kind of makes sure that I'm gonna keep grinding. And then by the time the board's turning, I do a little bit of an ollie, right? Because if you don't, you most likely are gonna hang up. You definitely don't wanna do that with this trick. So just make sure you're kind of rolling your foot or giving a little bit of a hop when you go to come in. All right, guys, hope these tips are helpful for you. And if you want a chance to win a set of wheels, just make sure to go follow me and Danny Torres on Instagram for more details. All right, I'll see you guys soon.